Hi, welcome back. Apparently, I've upgraded from doing like monthly wrap-ups to doing the season wrap-ups. It's not because I'm lazy, it's just because I forget. Those are two separate things. If you don't recognize this background, I'm in Switzerland visiting my dad. This is my childhood bedroom in my dad's home. It feels really weird filming here. Most of the books that I'm going to talk about have been featured in previous videos, so if you want to see like the full actual in-depth review, I'm going to link them up here, or maybe you can just go to find them in my channel. This summer, I thought I would be reading more, but actually reading how many books I read, that's a fuck ton of books. My perception is really skewed on these things because I used to read like 200 books a year and now I just don't have the capacity anymore. I started the summer with a very summery book. I was trying to find out if Pinterest had good book recommendations, and the first one that it recommended to me was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. The cover, the premise, it was everything was so cute, okay? I just hated the writing. You can fight me on this. I think the writing is objectively not good. It's very simple structure, like noun, verb, maybe an adjective. It feels kind of soulless. It feels really dry. It made me not care about the characters, even though the things that were happening in this book, not cute at all, not romantic at all. They also use the word unalived, like the TikTok lingo in the book, unironically, and that's a big no-no in my book. I gave the book 2 stars because even though I really did not like almost any aspect of the story, I really liked the protagonist. I liked the family drama and trauma. I like to read about those themes and it was not done badly, so I gave it 2 stars. And then Pinterest recommended finally a good book. I read Lies and Weddings by Kevin Kwan. This is the same author of the Crazy Rich Asians series, one of my favorite series of all time. If you love the Crazy Rich Asians series, you're going to love this one. There are 2 things in the world that I love more than anything, almost more than my friends, okay? Weddings and gossip. This is about wedding and gossips. The writing style talks about these incredibly rich people who attend weddings and lie to each other in such a very comedic way. This is a hilarious book, okay? It also critiques the privileges and the money, again, in a very funny way that makes you feel like, oh yeah, I'm ready for escapism, but these people I would eat, like eat the rich. This book. Give it 5 stars. I loved it. I loved it from beginning to end. It was perfect for me. I also deeply cared about the romance, which is something I did not really care about in the original series. This one I cared so much. And the last book that Pinterest recommended to me was Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. This is the 5th book in the Magnolia Parks universe. You know how it goes. If you've read one of these books, it's an interconnected series. You first read Magnolia Parks and then Daisy Hates and then you go back to Magnolia Parks. This is the 3rd Magnolia Park book, and listen, I read the first book and I was like, this is a car crash, 2 stars. Who are these people and why are they so fucking mean and messy? Then they go to therapy and then they grow, and they actually grow, like both in age and in maturity. And I came to care deeply about everybody in this book. I care for Magnolia. BJ, you're on fucking thin ice. But yes, I do kind of like you right now. I teared up at his last chapter. Did not want to tear up for a man, but I did. I gave it 4 stars. It was very, very good. I really like how Jessa Hastings took this character that were so messy and so childish. She made them grow into adults, like proper adults, even though it's kind of like they're in Gossip Girl, but in London. It was so fun. It was so deeply, I guess, moving. It was very tender. 4 stars. Then I read a graphic novel that the publisher gently, like super kindly, got to me. It's called Rive Lontane by Anais Flonnier. This is a wonderful graphic novel about the American side of the Italian mafia that got exported during, the immigrant war. I beg everybody who reads mafia romances to read this graphic novel. Bittersweet, tender, but also kind of realistic, what it would be like to get roped in to Cosa Nostra, which is the one of the biggest mafia groups that we had in Italy have still to this day, and it was also in America. It talks about queer themes and how a relationship will never be healthy when somebody is in the mafia or is a gangster. I really liked it. I thought, oh no, it's going to glorify the mafia once again. No, it was poignant. I loved it. Historically accurate, and I really liked it. So I give it 5 stars. I actually read all of the books by Andrea Siman, who is the author of Call Me By Your Name, Find Me, all of those books. And one other book I needed to read to complete my collection, which was Idil on High Lane. This is a very short book. It's also very kind of like a screenplay of these two, I don't want to say elder, they're in the Middle Ages, okay. They're in their 50s and they have jury duty and they meet and the spark flies, but they're both married, and they decide to not tell their spouses but have like a night of passion. I could very much see this one be a screenplay for a French movie. Not much of a book. It was very dialogue heavy, not very descriptive. It was okay. Not great, not bad. I give it 3 stars. My biggest achievement for this summer was finishing Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. This book took everything out of me. Usually with Brandon Sanderson books, I struggle with the beginning because the beginnings are very slow and I think they could be reduced. Like the part 1 and 2, I think they could be combined because he writes in parts or acts. This time was the middle that was very slow and there were scenes that were not there for the plot. The beginning and the end, bitch. So good. So good. I cannot wait for the last book that is going to come out. I think in December. I could be wrong, but this year. I cannot wait. It's the last book with Kaladin, however you want to call it. My son. I give it 4.25 stars. I think my favorite is still the second book though. Then I had to attend a masterclass for my flute lessons because I'm a flutist, and I had a lot of free time on an island, and so I tried and succeeded in reading Dark Rise, and I also read Dark Hair. The series is consuming my entire life. Okay, I cannot wait for the 3rd book, but the author, C.S. Pacat, still hasn't even written yet. I don't know how you would call it. If you like knight stories, like fantasy stories with knights and gothic stories, you would love Dark Rise and Dark Hair. It's also about a very atypical protagonist. I would call it not maybe an anti-hero, but because of the circumstances. Review for the 1st book this was a weird one, but I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and then 2nd book, I give it 4.5 stars. It was so good, so engrossing. I was glued to every word, every page. And then I was like, I just read 3 heavy fantasy books. I need a break. Let's read Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, who was a wedding planner falling in love with a tattooed florist, very AO3 fanfiction coded. It was fine. It was okay. It was very sex positive. As I said, I love weddings, and this was very fun because they plan a very huge wedding. There were some characters that were so unlikable though, and they do not redeem themselves. Like one of the 2 people that are going to get married, but did not like, and they did not apologize for what they did. I mean, they did, but the apology was weak. And I feel like they could have developed the chemistry between the 2 characters more, like the emotional chemistry. I also did not like how the protagonist changes her mind at the end on something that I'm not going to spoil. But you know, it was okay. I gave it 3.5 stars. And then I was searching for 5 stars. Okay, this was my video. It took forever to edit. Please go watch it. I started, I don't remember. I started with Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. And this was my problem, because I gave it 5 stars on a video that ended when I gave a book 5 stars. So I should have ended the video there, but I didn't. And that was my curse. I loved Emily Wilde. It was everything that I wanted. It was such a House Moving Castle core book, like the book House Moving Castle. And it was like blonde Howl from the movie and a redhead Howl from the movie try to write a paper together on fairies. So funny, so good, grumpy ex sunshine if you will. If you don't like novels that are written in form of a diary, or if there's just a sliver of romance, it's not going to be for you. I, however, loved it. It was quiet, it was slow, loved every page. And then I tried to replicate that feeling by reading Guardian Volume 1 by Priest. This is about occult detectives in modern China. I liked it. It was okay. I, however, did not feel connected to the characters outside of the main two, and everybody else, like the secondary characters, were all the same. So I give it 4 stars. Not fully attached to the story yet. I'm in the middle of Volume 2, but it's snowing in that particular scene, so I'm waiting for the fall. And then I got into a mood. I wanted to read about girl scammers, and so I came about adult dramas and other essays by Natalie Beach. I fucking hate essays collection. This one, however, was incredible. This was very good. Talks about gender, women's bodies, women's rights being stripped away, and also the relationship between the author and one of her best friends a long time ago that turned out to be a fucking scammer, like in real life. I loved it. It has such a distinct narrative style. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then again, chasing that feeling of girl scammers, I read Cover Story by Cecilia Rigetti, or Rigetti. I gave it 2.75 stars. It's like a thriller was written in the same kind of writing style of a romance book. It did not gel well at all. The protagonist was also so naive. Oh my god, like, wake up, girl. Not my jam. And then, oh my god, my first Bret Easton Ellis book. He's the author of American Psycho. I, however, read the Shards first. 700 pages, they feel like 300 of being in Bret Easton Ellis' head in an auto-fictionalized version of himself in the 80s in Los Angeles, if he had met a serial killer. There were also cults. It was very disturbing. Like, you go through the paranoia with Bret. Like, you spiral down with him. It was very interesting. I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars. And then again, I was like, well, you should really read something that you know is going to be 5 stars. Alice, wake up. So I read Not in Love by Elie Hazelwood. I was so sure this was going to end the video, and then it did not. I gave it 3.75 stars. This is Elie Hazelwood's book that I liked the least, even though it was good. It was good. I said a million times, Elie Hazelwood is famous for her banter and the chemistry between her characters, but she crafted 2 characters who are very emotionally unavailable, especially the main female protagonist. So there's no banter, and the connection is very slow and timid, which I can appreciate, but I don't know if the story was crafted well for these type of characters. I can appreciate that she's branching out of her usual feminist formula, but I kind of like the formula better, so I don't know. I liked it. It was not the best. And then I did another thing that is so out of character of me. I read the memoir. I read the memoir of a person that I did not know. I read How to Murder Your Life by Kat Marnell. Loved it. Loved it. This is about how Kat Marnell had the life. Okay, she was the it girl in New York, writing for fashion magazines. That was her dream, but drugs fucked her life for the worse. And it's also written in such a, again, comedic, like, light style that you're like, oh my god, something horrible is happening to you. Why are you laughing? I give it 4 stars. It was so I felt for her so much, and the fact that I now know that she's completely sober from everything makes their story so much better. And then I was like, I have this book in physical form. Okay, not here, but I have it. And I liked Guardian Volume 1. So this one was from the same author. I read Stars of Chaos Volume 1. So much better than Guardian. This is like the installment, first installment on a fantasy series that it's not really fantasy, it's more like steampunk. Like, they have robots and armors, but there's no electricity, it's all powered by fuel. So cool. We have a protagonist that it's now a child, but he's so talented with a sword. And then he's kind of guardian, protector, his mentor, who is both blind and deaf, but he has a medicine that can grant him temporary vision and hearing, but he's getting immune to this medicine. And right now, this is all I know. A war is brewing and I'm so invested. It was good. I gave it 4.25 stars though, because it was very slow moving and I'm waiting for the next volume. And then again, I was like, let's be stupid once again, okay? Let's read Masters of Death by Oliver Blake. It was very fun. I love how Oliver Blake's like flowery writing adapts to the circumstances. This book is a more, it's a lighter one than the Idil 6, for example, or Alone with You in the Ether. It's a European fantasy and it's a very weird little book. I think it would have benefited from either being 2 books or like a longer book, because a lot of characters and some of the secondary ones get the short end of the stick. Thank you. Some of the secondary ones get the short end of the stick in terms of character development, but I still really liked it. It's about the godson of death and a vampire and a thief, and they are trying to win sort of like the game of life in which you battle with death to have your wish granted. Very good, very committed at times. It was hilarious at times. I also really liked the beginning and the ending. They were so good. And then I gave up. I gave up. The curse of finding a 5 stars had run its course, and I read Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. Loved it, of course, 5 stars. Even though it was like quicker paced and they had like a very clear objective in the story this time around, and I liked the quiet of the first book more, this was still a 5 stars. I loved it. Loved the relationship between Emily Wilde and Wendell. Loved the fairies, how the folklore is so vivid and gritty. Loved it. 5 stars. And then I was like, I need some more Brat analysis in my life. Let's read Less Than Zero, his debut novel, which is the Shards, but in short form. It's really just the Shards in short form and without the serial killer, but it's like the depravity of the MTV generation in Los Angeles. Like, how can money really truly corrupt these people to the max? Very short, packed a punch at the ending. Check the trigger warnings, but I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. And then I listened to Dear Dolly. This is the collection of all her like columns that she published in a magazine, like help columns, help advice. It was fun. It was really what all the millennial women wanted to know about their partners and their health and like kind of reassurance. It felt like a conversation that you had a million times with your friends. So it was kind of like generic, but I really liked it. And it was also narrated by Dolly who had a beautiful voice. The last 2 books, wildly different. I read One from an Enemy by Oliver Blake. This was the last Oliver Blake that I needed, because I now have read all of the books, and unfortunately this, being her oldest one, is the weakest one. The writing is too flowery at times, and you really can feel how this book was firstly published as like the first half of the book was published in a magazine and then she added the second half. It really feels like 2 different stories, and like the pace of the story really suffers from it. So I still gave it 3 stars. It was good, like the story, I was invested. I however fucking dislike Maria Antonova, Masha. Fuck you, you were an awful character, you did not deserve Dimitri, okay? And then I read a book that I actually have because I bought it here. I read Farwell the Magic by Alison Saft, who was a delightful little book. I gave it 4 stars, no, 3.75 stars, because the actual plot of the book, it's about a hunt in a gothic little town surrounded by fog and the sea, and there's a type of magic called alchemy. Like, they use alchemy in the way that Fullmetal Alchemist uses alchemy with the circles. It's kind of like a little bit of magic. They have to slay, like the 2 main protagonists, they have to slay this mythical beast to gain access to money and like family fortune and fame. And they have like family troubles, both of them being both very poor, and the female main protagonist, the son of a famous alchemist who went kind of mad and disappeared at the beginning of the book. What brought down this wonderful book was the unfortunately the romance. You have a very atypical, unusual kind of book about alchemy, about religious trauma. The religious conflict was so interesting, and then you give it the most mundane cliche romance ever. Like, they brush hands at the halfway point and you're like, oh, so this is a slow burn. No, because they think about each other constantly from page 20. So it's not a slow burn. It's really not. They develop feelings at page 10. I still really enjoyed it because the atmosphere was wonderful. The writing style was very, very good. It was not flowery, but it was atmospheric and evocative, and I really, really liked it. So these are all the books that I read this, May, June, July. No, June, July, August. I, however, started another book. I found a very cheap copy of Sorcery of Thorns because I'm doing some kind of investigative journalism about books that really remind me of Housewarming Castle, and everybody said this book. So I'm starting it. I'm liking it. I'm on page 6 with the writing style. I already know that I really like because I read An Enchantment of Ravens and I really like that one. Really reminded me again of Howl, and yeah. So these are all the books that I actually read this past few months. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you could please tell me what your last 5-star read was so that I can, inspire myself for the next video. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye! Mwah.